So this is the second day that we're working on distributed property and combining like terms. Number one, yes, you're supposed to begin with parentheses, but if you look at the inside of the parentheses, you got 3x take away 7. You can't do that. You can only add or subtract numbers or terms that are alike. So we move on to the multiplication that's out here. And I always recommend to circle what you're going to distribute and then draw an arrow. 2 times 3x. Now we all know the answer is 6x. And then 2 times this negative 7, that's going to be a negative 14, and I'm going to write it as a minus 14, and there's my answer. However, what I would like to do here is to even show more detail, show my work, even though you're not supposed to show your work. I mean, you don't have to show your work, but I'm going to show my work. When I distribute the 2 times the 3x, I'm actually going to write it out, 2 times 3x. And I'm actually going to show my distribution of 2 times the negative 7. So here's 2 times that negative 7. Okay? So what do I get? 2 times 3x, that's 6x. 2 times negative 7, that's negative 14. There's my answer. You don't have to do this. No way. You don't have to do this. Right? I'm just doing this for anybody that's still like, oh man, I'm not too sure about distributed property. I mean, this stuff right here, we usually do it in our heads, right? 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. But you could show your work if you're not feeling too good about it. So for example, right here, showing my work, negative 3 times negative 9x. Let me write that out. Negative 3 times a negative 9x. That will give me a positive 27x. And then I distribute negative 3 times negative 11. Let me write that out. Negative 3 times negative 11. What do I get? 33. 33, and that is a positive 33. And there's my answer. Okay, once again, this stuff right here, this math, it's usually going on in our heads, so you don't have to show that work. All right, but I'm showing my work just so if anybody's struggling, you could show your work and get it done showing the work. Now, it especially is good to show your work when you have fractions, like number 3. Now, you're like, oh, fractions. Now, the fact is this, guys. Multiplying fractions is easy. Multiplying fractions is easy. Now, if I said, what is 1/2 plus 2/3? That's challenging. But if I say, what's 1/2 times 2/3? That's easy, right? So multiplying fractions is easy. It's when you're adding or subtracting fractions where it's a little more challenging, because when you're adding and subtracting, that's where you need a common denominator. But if you're multiplying two fractions, all you got to do is the top with the top, bottom with the bottom. That's 2 over 6, and then reduce. Reduce by 2, reduce by 2, you'll get 1/3. So 1/3 is your answer. Multiplying by fractions is easy. So don't get freaked out when you have to distribute a fraction. Why? Because multiplying fractions is easy. Okay. Now I am going to show my work. I recommend you guys show your work too when you have distribution of fractions. Check it out. We're going to circle the 2/3. Please do that on your paper. Draw an arrow to the 6x. And let's show our work. Let me actually write 2/3 times 6x. Now, of course, we said multiplying fractions is easy. You could make that 6 look like a fraction by putting it over 1. And then you could multiply the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom and then reduce. So what is on top 2 times 6? 12. And on the bottom, what's 3 times 1? 3. And let's not forget about the x right here. We're going to put that x right there. I'm just going to put it on the side. You could put it on top or on the side. Now, what is 12 divided by 3? 4. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and we have an x there. So we have only distributed the 2/3 times the 6x. But now we need to distribute the 2/3 times the negative 5. I always say include the sign that's in front with the number. So I want to call this a negative 5 instead of a minus 5. And let me write out my work. The 2/3 times negative 5. Put the negative 5 over 1. And you're going to multiply again the top with the top. What's 2 times negative 5?
10.
Negative 10. Yeah, that's right. Over 3 times 1? 3. Could we reduce here? No. So I'm just going to bring it down and leave it there as part of my answer. The negative 10 over 3rd. Or 3 over 3. And that's my answer. 4x minus 10/3. So it's really not difficult at all, especially if you're showing your work when you're multiplying by fractions. Okay? Let's try another one. with fractions. Number 5. Showing our work. We're going to distribute 3/5 times 5x. Let me write it out. 3/5 times the 5x. Put that 5x over 1. And then you could also go 3/5 times 10. Let me show my work. 3/5 times 10. Put the 10 over a 1. So it's really like doing 2 separate problems, guys, right? Yeah. So this first one, you could multiply and then reduce, or you could reduce first and then multiply. Okay? What would you guys like to do? Reduce. Okay, so you guys see this 5 up here and the 5 down there?
Yeah.
You could just cancel them out. Boom, boom. So what do I have left? Well, I have 3 times 1. That's just 3 with an x. So you're going to have a 3x up on top. And the 1, because it canceled out, times 1, that's a 1 on the bottom, but you don't need 1 on the bottom. Anytime you have anything divided by 1, don't write the divided by 1. It's just a waste of time. It's just the same thing, 3x. Okay. Now, for that second fraction, 3/5 times 10, we could multiply top with the top, get 30, and then 5 times 1, get 5, and then 30 divided by 5 will be 6. Or you could cancel first and then multiply. Right? I want to cancel first and then multiply. Check it out. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And now you could say, okay, 3 times 2 is 6, positive 6. And 1 times 1 is 1. But of course, you're not going to leave that over 1. That's a waste of time. It's just 6. So there's your answer, 3x plus 6. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. What if, how about this one? It's so easy, you might get confused. What about that one? Anybody, go for it.
The negative has an invisible 1.
The negative has an invisible 1. So you could say the negative has an invisible 1. Let's distribute negative 1 times 3x. It's negative 3x. Negative 1 times negative 5. That's positive 5. We're done. Or you could have just said, hey, I'm going to distribute the negative sign. You didn't even have to think of a negative 1. You could just say a negative put right here is going to give me a negative 3. A negative distributed right here, a negative becomes positive. It's going to just change your signs, right? So yeah, you're distributing a negative 1, or you're just changing all the signs on the inside. Now, this second part of this worksheet, it's super easy. We're combining like terms. They have to be alike in order for us to combine them. So number 7, that's like saying I have 2 little plastic X's, but I owe somebody 3 little plastic X's. How do I end up? Negative 1 of those X's. You don't even have to put negative 1 of those X's. You could just put negative X if you wanted to. Either one's fine. Negative 1x or negative X. That's your answer. How about number 8? I could combine which terms? 9z and negative 3z, right? Now, when I combine, I like to circle or box in or underline. And when you do circle or box in, please include the sign that's in front, because that tells you whether you have or you owe, right? Yeah. So in this case, I have 9, I owe 3. How do I end up?
6.
I have 6 of those z's. And then I have 4, but notice I'm not circling anymore, because what's the point of circling everything, right? I switched to a different type of symbol, squiggly underline, right? I have 4, I owe 10. How do I end up? Negative 6, you owe 6. So there's your answer, right? By the way, these are multiple choice questions if you haven't noticed that. Like number 7, that's actually going to be this answer, negative x, is over here, option D. Option D is the correct answer for number 7. And number 8, 6z minus 6, where's that at? That's option C right there. Cool. So again, I'm skipping around. I'm not doing all these. You guys could do all these on your own if you'd like. Let's get to the fun part. Way at the bottom, we have both the distributive property and combining like terms. So let's take a look at, let's go for the hardest one, the last one, number 18. Once again, if you're used to PEMDAS, that's great. You could go in and say, could I do anything inside of the parentheses? No, you can't. Anything over here? No, you can't. So then you think, are there any exponents? No. Then you move on to multiplication. Do we have any multiplication? Yes, we do. There's multiplication of negative 4 right in front of that parenthesis, which I'm going to have to distribute. So negative 4 times 2x. Most of us are going to do this in our heads. I'm showing my work here. Negative 4 times 2x. What is that? Negative 8x, perfect. And then distribute negative 4 times a negative 1. Again, most of us do this in our head. I'm going to show my work. Negative 4 times negative 1. What does that give me? Positive 4. There you go. And then let's distribute the other one, the positive 3 times 2x. Again, I'm showing my work. Most of us are not going to show our work. We're just going to go 3 times 2x. And what do we get right there? Positive 6x. Let me put a plus sign in front of it. And over here, last but not least, 3 times negative 6. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Bless you.
Bless you.
And now we have those 4 terms. And since we've already multiplied, we've already distributed, now we could just combine like terms. So we could combine the negative 8x with the positive 6x. And what would I have left? Negative 2 of those x's. And then I have positive 4 and negative 18. How do I end up? Negative 14. You have 4, you owe 18, you're still going to owe 14. And there's our answer there. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Simple as popping a pimple and a dimple. What? Okay, how about... oh, wait a minute. I forgot this one, 6. And you know what? I like this one because if you understand what 1/2 is, you're going to be able to do this without showing any work. Okay? I want to show my work first. Okay, so let's all show our work on number 6. Circle the negative 1/2. Distribute. Let's actually write it out. Negative 1/2 times 2x. Put the 2x over 1. Do you want to cancel first and then multiply, or multiply first then reduce? Cancel first. Okay, so the 2 and the 2 cancels out. What's left? A negative 1x, right? We have a negative sign, a 1, and an x. So let's write down negative 1x. And when I distribute over here, negative 1/2 times negative 6. So I'm going to write it out. Negative 1/2 times the negative 6, but I'm going to put that over 1. You guys want to cancel first and then multiply, or multiply first then cancel?
Cancel.
Cancel, okay. The 6 on top and the 2 on the bottom, if you reduce both of them by 2, that'll be a 1 left on the bottom and a 3 left up on top, which is a negative 3. So what do I have left when I have a negative 1 times a negative 3? Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Yay?
Yes.
And it's pointless to put it over 1 because 3 over 1 is still just 3. So don't do it. Just leave it like that. So we know how to show our work. But if you truly understand what the multiplication of 1/2 is, you will be able to do this without any work. Like, for example, everybody knows 1/2. If I tell you what's 20 times half, or what's 1/2 of 20? 10. What's 1/2 of 8?
4.
What's 1/2 of 100? 50. See, you guys understand the concept of 1/2, right? So if you're multiplying by half, in reality, that multiplication of half is like dividing by 2, right? 20 times half is really like 20 divided by 2. So right here, you could do this in your head and say, okay, a negative times a positive is going to be a negative. But what is half of 2x? It's 1x. What is half of 6? It's 3. And a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, so once you get the hang of it, 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2, or multiplying by 1/3 is the same thing as dividing by 3. That's if these guys are divisible by 2 or divisible by 3. If not, you're going to have to show your work. Let's jump to this one over here. I saw a 1/3 down here. That's the equivalent of dividing by 3. When you distribute, it's the equivalent of dividing by 3. So what would our answer be? Negative 1/3 times positive 3. What would the answer be if I'm really dividing by 3? That'd be a negative 1 with an x, right? How about negative 1/3 times a positive 6, which is kind of like dividing by 3. What's my answer going to be? A negative 2. Now, if you're thinking, what the heck's going on? That's because I'm not showing my work, right? That's like if you understand 1/3, multiplying by 1/3 is kind of like dividing by 3, then you're able to do this in your head. But if not, it's okay. Just write out your work. Negative 1/3 times 3x. And you could put the 3x over 1. And then over here, negative 1/3 times the positive 6. And put the positive 6 over 1 also. And then you do this work, do that work, and you should get those answers. So on the first multiplication, the 3's cancel. What do I have left? I have a negative 1 times x. That is the negative 1x that we have there. And then over here, the 6 and the 3 cancels, and you have a 2 left over up on top and a 1 on the bottom. So what do I have left? A negative 1 times a positive 2. That'll be a negative 2 over 1, but you don't need the over 1. And that's how we get this answer down here. Okay? So if you understand 1/2 is like dividing by 2, 1/3 is like dividing by 3, then you might be able to get away with this without showing any work. But there's your answer. Okie doke. So I practically did the majority of this worksheet. I would like you guys to work on it for the rest of class. That way, we're going to have a pop quiz on this. It's not really a pop quiz if we already know it's going to be a quiz. So it's a tiny quiz tomorrow. Okay, so it's going to be on this stuff, distributed property and combining like terms.